students. Today we are going to study about the last part of unit number 1. So let us see what is the last part. It consists basic of construction management and contracts management. Temporary structures in construction, construction methods for various types of structures, major construction equipment, automation and robotics in construction, modern project management systems, and importance of contracts management. Dear students, let me tell you one thing, that whenever we are consulting one project of civil engineering, so construction, execution, and all the necessary equipments, the type of structure, and contracts management, each and everything we have to look forward. So let us see one by one. So first topic is temporary structures in construction. So what does a temporary structure means? Any structure that is not attached to a permanent foundation, a structure which is permitted with a land use district without any foundation or footing, and which is removed when designated time period, activity, or use for which the temporary structure was erected has ceased. These structures are used only for some of the construction methods where only the temporary support is needed, and when we build the permanent structure, then this temporary structure is removed. So let us see what are those. So first is your scaffolding. So what do you mean by scaffolding? Scaffolding, also called staging, it is a temporary structure used to support people and material in the construction or repair of building and other structures. So these are the structures when we are having the construction in progress. So we use this scaffolding for running the people from one place to another, and also the material from one part of the construction to the other part. So what are the types of scaffoldings? One is your single scaffolding, double scaffolding, cantilever scaffolding, terrestrial scaffolding, suspended scaffolding, steel scaffolding, patented scaffolding. So these are near about 6 to 7 types of scaffoldings which we take care while we are having the construction. So this first figure is the single scaffolding which we use while the construction is going on. This is the double scaffolding. This is the cantilever scaffolding, terrestrial scaffolding. This is the suspended scaffolding which is hanged from above, steel scaffolding, and this is patented scaffolding. Whenever we are constructing any staircase, these scaffoldings we use, and when the staircase is formed or constructed, we remove this scaffolding. Next is the stay bracing. This method is used for supporting the slides or a bench excavated in fairly firm soil when the depth of excavation does not exceed about 2 meters. So when we excavate or remove the soil from the required site for constructing the footing and raising the column, then we use this bracings. So the method consists of placing vertical sheets called sheeting or poling boards opposite each other against the two walls of the trench and holding them in position by one by or two rows of struts. These sheets are placed at an interval of 2 to 4 meters, and generally they extend to full height of the trench. A long trench, or you can say a canal, is made, and from two sides there is a wall. So by having the gap of 2 to 4 meters, these stay bracings are used to hold the soil sliding down. The polling boards may have width of about 200 mm and thickness of 44 to 50 mm. The struts may have size 100 to 100 mm for trench up to 2-meter width, and 200 by 200 mm for trench up to 4-meter width. So it depends upon the width of the trench, and these are the dimensions for 2 and 4-meter width. So you can see these are the trenches which are built up. So if you can see first A part, so this is a strut, a horizontal beam. These are the pollings which the struts are holded, and in between there is the 2 to 4 meter interval. After 2 to 4 meters, these are the boards which are used, and the struts are placed so that the soil will not slide down. So this is how it looks like when you go on the site. Next is your box sheeting. This method is adopted in loose soils when the depth of excavation does not exceed 4 meters. The box-like structure consisting of vertical sheets placed very near to each other, sometimes touching each other, and keeping them in position by longitudinal rows using two of walls. Struts are then provided across the wales. Another system of box sheeting shown in figure is adopted for the very loose soils. In this system, the sheeting is provided longitudinally and they are supported by vertical wales and horizontal struts. If the height is more, bracings are also provided along the struts. So let us see what these points means by seeing the figure now. So this is your figure. So this is your vertical sheeting and this is your horizontal sheeting. These are your wales. These are the horizontal panels which are used to just support these vertical sheetings, and these are the struts which are used to hold these panels. So this is the first and second figure. These are placed one by one each, and these are placed at some intervals. When you come to the horizontal sheetings, these are placed horizontally. These vertical sheetings are done by horizontals. Then wales are placed vertical here and struts as usual horizontal. And in second phase you can use this cross bracing so that the wales does not fall down. So this is how it is done. Next is your vertical sheeting. This is the diagram for the vertical sheeting. This system is adopted for deep trenches up to 10 meter in soft grounds. The method is similar to the box sheeting except that the excavation is carried out in stages, and at the end of each stage an offset is provided so that the width of the trench goes on decreasing as the depth increases. As you see that this is the trench and these are the wales and struts. This is the vertical sheeting. When this trench is width is lower, then again the sheeting platform is changed, and when again the trenches increases the width, and there will be the different types of sheeting. So these goes on when decreasing and increasing the strength of the trenches. Each stage is limited to about 3 meter in height, and the offset may vary from 25 to 50 centimeter per stage. So this is your first stage, this is your second stage. For each stage, separate vertical sheeting supported by horizontal wailings and struts are provided. So in the first stage, this type of the wailing and struts are used, and here in second, this is the type which is used. Next is your running sheeting. This is the diagram for running sheeting. This system is used in extremely loose and soft ground which needs immediate support as excavation progresses. So if you can see, this is the ground level. These are the runners which are used for supporting the soil falling down inside the struts or the excavation area where you have to build the foundation. And these whale and struts are placed near about 2 to 4 meter interval or lesser than that, and from here the soil is to be excavated or taken out. The system is similar to the vertical sheeting of box system, except that in the place of vertical sheeting, runners made of long thick wooden sheets or planks with iron shoe at the ends are provided. Wells and struts are provided as usual. These are the iron shoes which are provided at the end, which are used as cutting edges. You have to just introduce this into the soil, and with this help of these cutting edges of iron, these runners are inserted into the soft soil such as black cotton soils. These runners are driven about 30 centimeter in advance of the progress of the work by hammering. Next is your sheet piling. These are the temporary sheet piling structures which are used in the water current construction area where waterfronts are there. There these are used. This method is adopted when the soil is to be excavated soft or loose. Depth of excavation is large, width of trench is also large, and there is subsoil water. Sheet piles are designed to resist lateral earth pressure. These are driven into the ground by mechanical means, pile driving equipment. These can be used for excavating to a very large depth. So these are pile driving means with the help of hammers, these sheets are introduced inside. These are interconnected. This is one single panel of sheet, this is one single panel of sheet, and these are introduced into the soft soil or loose soils with the help of pile driving means piling of the hammer is done with the help of hammers. Next is your shoring. Shoring is the construction of a temporary structure to support temporarily an unsafe structure. These support walls laterally. They can be used under the following circumstances: when walls bulge out due to bad workmanship, when walls crack due to unequal settlement of foundation and repairs are to be carried out to the crack walls. So first is the bulging out, means whenever you construct a soil inside or you just keep your foundation on the head of the soil, the supporting soil under that foundation will come out from the either side of the footing. That is known as bulging. Next is unequal settlements, means whenever you are constructing, when there is a loose soil, the construction will go down, as soil is a compressive material. Because of the loading of the construction, the soil will go down, and where there is a rocky soil, that construction will remain up. The half of the structure will go up and half of the structure will be going down. So that is known as your unequal settlement, and cracks will be developed into the walls. So this has to be done with the help of shoring. When an adjacent structure needs pulling down, dismantling, whenever you are having the new construction, the old construction has to be dismantled, destroyed. For this you need shoring. When openings are to be newly made or enlarged in a wall, type of shoring: racking shows, flying shows, and dead shows. So this is your first racking shoring, a single racking timber shows. So this, if you can see, this is one vertical member. These are the different types of floors, and this is your wooden wall plate. This is known as a clit. This is known as a needle, which is combining or just holding your wall plate and clit. And this is anchored here into the soil with the help of dog and sole piece, which means anchoring material. This is your wall spike typical, and this is known as your racker, and this is your brace which is holding a wall plate and a brace and a racker in a vertical inclined manner. This is your flying shows. If you can see, there are two vertical members, and these are the floors, and these are the wedges. This is your straining piece which is holding your these four racking struts. The wall plate is there, then needle and clit is there, and this is the horizontal shore which is holding this inclined members, and this is a wedge which is holding your horizontal member. And this is your dead shoring. If you can see, this type of structure is there. This is the vertical member which is having the PVC flooring here. Then if you can see, the folding is there. This is again the vertical member, this is the horizontal member, and this is your inclined bracing which is holding this vertical and horizontal member together. And this type of structure is known as your dead shoring. The second topic is construction methods for various type of structures. So first structure is wall bearing construction. See the figure. If you can see this is the structure having ground floor, first floor and roof. So this is your inclined roofing which is known as your pitch roofing, and these are known as your rafters, and on that these sheets are kept. These are your ceiling joists which are holding your rafters intact. This is the second floor wall struts, vertical members. This is the slab subfloor, first floor wall struts. These are second floor wall struts. Again there are the first floor joints, the first floor joints, and this is your comma bracings which are used to hold the horizontal members together, and this is your subflooring surface. So in wall or load bearing construction, all the load of roof and structure is carried by walls down to its foundation. So these walls or these struts, these carry all the roofing and horizontal members, everything loading on them, and they transfer to the foundation soil. So this arrow shows there is the climatic conditions which transfers to the struts, then struts and horizontal member transfers to the vertical walls. These vertical walls of first floor transfer to the first floor walls, and these transfer to the ground floor soil. This type of construction may not use supporting column or wood pillar. The size of walls needs to be bigger to carry all the loads. Further, there is limitation to construct long walls at a stretch. This is typically used in residential or 1 to 2 story buildings only. This is economical than RCC structure or steel structures. Next is your RCC reinforced structure. If you can see, this is a column, this is a footing, this is a column, this is a beam, and this is showing the internal reinforcement inside. This is the steel inside. So this is the pier, this is the beam which will come out from here, this is the column, and this is how the reinforcement is done inside the pier. So in RCC frame structure, the load is transferred from a slab to the beams, then to the columns, and further to lower columns, and finally to the foundation, which in turn transfer it to the soil. So in frame structure, firstly the slab and beams transferred the loads to the column along with the walls, and these column transfers the load to the footing, and footing transfers to the foundation soil. This is how the load is transferred. Cement concrete is strong in compressive strength. We use mild steel bars in cement concrete. Steel bars used in cement concrete provide good strength to the structure. So this is the third type, pre-engineered buildings. If you can see, this is the warehouse which is having opening or just glass over here, which is known as for skylight. These are the purlins which are made up of steel, and this is aluminium glass window, gable grading, roll up door, entrance, corner flush, etc. All these are made prefabricated, पहले ही बनाकर फिर साइट में आकर उसे सिर्फ एग्जीक्यूट करने का काम करता है ये प्री इंजीनियर्ड बिल्डिंग्स. So structural engineering, a pre-engineered building is designed by the manufacturer to be fabricated using a predetermined inventory of raw materials and manufacturing methods that can efficiently satisfy a wide range of structural and aesthetic design requirements. So dear students, these are made in the factories itself with the help of the design provided by the structural engineers. When some geographic industry sectors, these buildings are also called pre-engineered metal buildings, or as is becoming increasingly common due to the reduced amount of pre-engineering involved in custom computer-aided design, simply engineered metal buildings. So further now modern technology has came, and with the help of this computer aided drawings and design, we first design total building with different type of materials, and then we fabricate it and execute into the site. Third part is the major construction equipment. So let us study which are those. Various instruments used in construction, environmental engineering, foundation engineering, strain gauges, management utilities using telemetry, SCADA system. So instruments used in construction, compacting equipment, excavating equipment, non-destructive equipment. So let us study one by one. First is your compacting equipment. So what is compaction? A simple ground movement technique where the soil is densified through external compacting effort. Let us see how it is done. If your soil is there with a loosened material, lots of voids, then you have to use a compactive effort using compacting materials, road rollers and other compacting equipments. Then when you compact it, they will come to this structure, they will try to come close and reduce the void. So this is known as your compaction, which is the removal of air. So lab equipment, compaction equipment, standard Proctor test equipment. It is known as Proctor test since it was described or given by Proctor, scientist Proctor, so it is known as your Proctor test. This is the equipment designed by Proctor, which is having certain dimensions. This is the mold, which is having the collar over here, and this is your hammer, which is used for compaction. And this is the simplest method. This is your mold with the help of collar, and this is the hammer. The field compaction equipments, vibrating plates. So these are the vibrating plates. Whenever you are using it for roads, then these vibrator plates you might have seen used to compact the soil at the lower end of the roads. For smaller areas, effective for granular soils. Field compacting equipments, smooth wheel roller with the help of drum. It is having the two drums. One drum is inner side, one drum is on the back side. So it has 100% coverage under the wheel. Contact pressure is 380 kPa. Can be used on all soil types except for rocky soils. Compactive effect, static weight. The most common use of large smooth wheel roller is for proof rolling subgrades and compacting asphalt pavements. Pavement means for making the roads. This type of rollers we have every time seen whenever the construction of road is made in Nagpur also. Next is your pneumatic or rubber tired rollers. This type of rollers are there and number of rubber tires are used. 80% coverage under the wheel, contact pressure up to 700 kPa, can be used for both granular and fine grained soils. Compactive effect static weight can be used for highway fills or earth dam construction. It is mainly used for earth dams construction wherever we are using the soil for making the dam. Next is your sheaf foot rollers. This is known as your sheaf foot rollers, having the variations or ranges on this rollers. So let us see the description. Has many round or rectangular shaped protrusions or feet attached to a steel drum, 8% to 12% coverage. Contact pressure is from 1400 to 7000 kPa. It is best suited for clay soils, compactive effect, static weight and kneading. Since the black cotton soil is a soft soil, whenever you compact this soil, it will stick to your drums. If the drum is smooth, then they will stick to it, and it is very difficult to remove that soil and again compact. So this type of rollers are used when such type of soils are there. They will not stick to this shaped feet attached over it on the steel drums. Tamping foot rollers. So these are also having protrusions, and this is having one drum over here. It will make the soil compact also and remove the soil also. About 40% coverage, contact pressure is from 1400 to 8400 kPa. It is best for compacting fine grained soil, silt and clay. Compacting effect is static weight and kneading. Next is your mesh or grid pattern rollers. This is known as your mesh or grid pattern rollers on the drum. It is having the 50% coverage near about 1400 to 6200 kPa contact pressure, used for rocky gravelly soils, and it is used for crushing the material and again using it on the side. So it is again having the effect static weight and vibration. नेक्स्ट इज योर वाइब्रेटिंग ड्रम ऑन स्मूथ व्हील रोलर्स. ये हम लोग ऑफन देखते हैं हमारे रोड का जब कंस्ट्रक्शन होता है तो हम ये ड्रम जो है इसे यूज करते हैं. Vertical vibrator attached to the smooth wheel rollers. The best explanation of why roller vibration causes densification of granular soils is that particle rearrangement occurs due to cyclic deformation of the soil produced by the oscillations of the roller. Compactive effect is weight and vibration and suitable for granular soils only. Then what do you mean by dynamic compaction? Pounding the ground by heavy weight. This is how you can just densify the soil using this heavy weight equipment. So which are those? These are known as the heavy weight equipment. This is the machine, this is the weight, this is known as pounder or tamper, and these are the crater created by the impact of that tamper, and it is used for granular soils, landfills and terrain wells, sinkholes. And this pounder tamper is having 5 to 30 tons weight and drop of 30 to 10 meter. Next is your vibro flotation. This is the machine which is used. This vibro flotation, first you have to densify or make the hole by this vibro float. Then the cementing is done and the cavity inside the soil is formed, which is filled with the help of cementing. So vibroflotation is the technique for in situ densification of thick layers of granular soil deposits. It was developed in Germany in 1930s. So this is a vibrofloat, dear students. You can see how much huge and weighted it is. So it is suitable for granular soils. The length of vibrofloat is near about 2 to 3 meter, diameter 0.3 to 0.5 meter, and mass and weight is 2 tons. So it is lowered into the ground and vibrated. Excavating equipments. An excavator is a power driven machine mostly used in earth removing operations. All dear students have this seen this equipment used. This is known as power shovel equipment and used to excavate the soil from the side. Backhoes, excavators. So you can see this is the bucket, this is the bloom stabilizer inlets, this is known as the loader, tractor, cab, stick and backhoe. This is known as your backhoe, which is holding the bucket for excavating the soil. This is the loader, which is moving the soil from one place to another. So these are known as power shovel equipment with backhoes and excavators. And this is the front end road rollers. If you can see, these are having the edges, so it will just cut your soil, remove the soil, and then the soil is taken from one place to another. So these are again your bulldozers which are used. These are very heavyweight bulldozers which are used to take the soil from one place to another, excavate the soil with the help of reapers. This are the reapers which remove the soil, and this is the loader which will take the soil from one place to another. Now next is your non-destructive testing equipments. Non-destructive testing of building means analyzing the condition of building after construction or of an existing construction. So this is most important, dear students, when we are using any construction. When you are having only first floor build and you want to build the second and third floor of the existing building, so we know that column footings are built at a time only, so we cannot construct columns and footing again and again when you are having the construction. But now we need to just know the strength of the column, whether it will withstand the load of the following structures which we are going to build, first or second floor. So these non-destructive equipments we use to know the strength of existing RCC members. Usually used for old buildings for the repair and maintenance work. The non-destructive testing methods are Schmidt rebound hammer test, ultrasonic pulse velocity test, carbonization depth measurement test, permeability test, penetration resistance or Windsor prop test, infrared thermography. So in it we'll see Schmidt rebound hammer. If you can see, this is the hammer, and if you want to see the strength of your slab, so you just insert the needle inside or just press the needle, and this will give you the reading in this box. So you can see the weight is 1.8 kg, can be used in lab and field, easy to use, variable results. This is how another concrete test is done. So this is used for near about 10 to 17 Newton per mm compressive strength. To know the compressive strength of any structure, you can use this hammer. Next is your ultrasonic pulse velocity test. So this is the instrument which is used. These are having this electric pulse generator transducers, and amplifier is used. So these transducers, one on the lower side of the beam and one on the side of the beam is attached, and on this amplifier or electronic timing device you can just see the strength of the beam. So how it works, so you can see the diagram. So this is the direct transmission from the upper and lower side of the beam, semi-direct form from the lower side and side of the beam, and indirect above, it can be above or bottom side of the slab or the beam. These are the instruments. If you do the direct transmission, you will get this type of results. If you are having on indirect type, this will you will get the result, and only one side, then this will be the result. So we are always taking care that all the three transmissions we do, we get the appropriate results, and then we can go for further repair, maintenance or construction. Next is your spectrophotometer. Light intensity change by absorbance or transmittance. Quality using absorbance used to determine the intensity of transmitted light, to determine the absorbance of transmittance used in dyes industry, to determine color impurities in water. How it is worked? There is one station, then again the current, then it will give you the result IT terminal, and it will give you the result. So this is your spectrometer first, which is giving the current, then here your sample is there in between, and when your sample is passed to this, then you get a photometer of that sample. So the intensity of incident light, IT is the intensity of transmitted light, and this is how your diagram is obtained before and after. Okay. Then automation and robotics in construction. Automation involves a mechanical device that can imitate the actions of peoples or animals. Robotic involves the design, construction, operation of a robot. A robot is a machine that performs complicated tasks and is guided by the automatic control. Whatever is difficult for the man to do, these machines do for us in construction. That's why we call them as robotics in construction. So this is the first robotics in construction industry. So first generation robots were designed to perform factory work. Such robots perform simple tasks that were dangerous or unpleasant for people. Robots were used to weld, spray, paint, move heavy objects, handle hot materials, etc. When it was designed first, they were of limited use so that they should not harm to the people. Then if you can see the fireproofing spray robots, if you can see the first figure, this instrument is used for the fireproofing, what we do in the construction area. And this is ceiling paneling position robots. The panels on the ceiling are kept one by using these machines. These are your steel beam positioning manipulators. Whenever you are having the steel structure, these instruments are used to position your beams on one place to another. Second is your wall finishing robot. This wall finishing robot is used to just clarify what type of a material has to be used for wall finishing and how can it be done. Robots in civil works. This is the semi-automation robots. We can move in the site for different type of works. This is the concrete crusher. when you are having a structure and you want to demolish, you use this equipment. This is robot for blasting, robot for cement industry, robot for roads, concrete horizontal distributor, concrete floor finishing robot, modern project management system. So in this, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to project activities in order to meet or exceed stakeholders' needs and expectations from a project, need of balancing competing demands among scope, time, cost, quality stakeholders with different needs and expectations, and identified needs and unidentified requirements, expectations. This is the management which is used when we are having one client and the construction work is given. Then we have to see what type of needs are there, what type of a project is there, can all the expectations can meet, what expectations can we be able to give and what we cannot give. So this is how you have to manage the project and keep in front of the client. So these are the various stages of the project. First you have to think, then you have to plan and schedule, then you have to collect the data, then status updating through network and giving early warnings, and then pave a path for successful completion. So this is how you have to do while you are handling one project. So responsibilities of project manager: planning thoroughly through all the aspects of the project, controlling the manpower of the organization, optimize the technical versus cost trade-offs in specific areas where optimization is required, monitor performance, cost and efficiency of all elements of the projects, completing the project on schedule and within cost. So this is a very big responsibility. Now, competencies of project management: you have to do the planning and organizing with the same, then you have to have the total controlling on the project, then stress tolerance, all the thing project manager is having to so much of stress because he or she has to manage the total project throughout the completion. The stress will be there, so we should be able to have that particular mental power to just tolerate the stress coming. Next is your end customer orientation, a personal chemistry. End customer orientation means the what end to end type of connection you are having with your customer. Then personal chemistry means the your give and take relationship with all, with your labors, with your higher authorities, with your lower authorities, each and everything. Analytical skills, calculations and all. Leadership quality: managing people, managing performance and sensitivity. Project management process: you can see the interface and start project, initiating process, then planning process, then closing process, then execution process. In that you have to monitor and control, and at the closing you have to see that everything has done with the good planning base. These are again some charts for the project management of the group. Kindly have a look on this. So next is your planning. So most important phase of the project management is planning. Planning is an art and science of converting a set of objectives to realization through a series of steps executed in an organized and predicted way, so that there will be less requirement of changes in the plan later on. The old saying, plan the work, work the plan. So planning is the most important part, dear student. Unless and until you plan something, work is not executed. If you are studying also, you have to plan. If you have 5 subjects, then you have to plan according to the exam. An exam is on 10 days, then 2 days per subject, and you have to work according to your plan. So this will give you good results. So next is your scheduling. Scheduling phase is the process of formalizing the planned activities, assigning the durations, resources, and sequence of occurrence in consultation with the team members. Scheduling time, if you have planned something, the project is planned but your subordinates are not cooperating, then you have such a leadership that without making them annoying or harassing them, you have to just take care that your teammates do a good work with good temper. So planning and scheduling phases are undertaken before the actual project starts. Next is your controlling. So controlling phase is undertaking during the actual project implementation. Project controlling is a mechanism established to determine deviations from the project based schedule, to replan and reschedule during implementation, to compensate the deviations on the basis of commissioning minima, flow of resources like finance, manpower, equipment, and application techniques. So planning and scheduling is done, but execution is the most important part, which has to be controlled. So what a project manager is going to do, they have to replan and reschedule all the things. Are they done well while starting the implementation? Is the finance ready, manpower ready, all the equipments and applications techniques are ready? All these things they have to take care of, and they have to see the security also, because if something doesn't go through the plan, see, some things are to be done by human being itself. The major things 95% are done by human beings and 5% by the robots. So this part plays a very important game in this implementation. Then is the closing. Closing phase is the last phase of the project, which brings close out of the complete project. Whatever the project requirements are predetermined during this phase, the total delivery is made and it is accepted by the customer. So this is done, and the project management work is done when the customer becomes happy. So importance of contract management. What is a contract? An agreement enforceable by the law is a contract. A contract comes into existence only when all the terms and conditions have been finalized. There are types of contracts: lump sum contract, cost plus fixed fee contract, cost plus bid fee contract, guaranteed maximum contract, negotiated contract, and unit price contract, design build contract, and turnkey contracts. What is a lump sum contract? Tradition method of contract. This is the contract when all the things are done. Drawing is done, everything is done, planning and everything is done. The first party and the second party both are having the mutual what you can say understanding, then the signing of the contract is done. So cost plus fixed fee contract, all cost for the work according to the specification is reimbursed by the owner to the contractor. Contractor is paid a fixed sum which represents the profit. So here what happens, the contract is done that this is the lump sum amount with respect to the area or with respect to the project, and according to that contract the contractor has to work. No other sum is given to that contractor. Cost plus bid fee contract. Owner invites proposal from qualified contractors in terms of past experience, performance, etc. All cost for the work according to the specification is reimbursed by the owner to the contractor. The bid fee is calculated on the basis of the project scope. So this is how tendering is done. That means one work is there and lot many tenders are invited, and according to their experience and their performance in the last particular works, the contract is done by the owner and contractor. Guarantee maximum contract. The contractor agrees to perform work within a price ceiling. This is the maximum guarantee price. If the ceiling is exceeded without change in scope, then excess cost is borne by the contractor. If the work is done and it is not up to the mark, the excess work cost is to be borne by the contractor itself. No excess amount to the contractor is given. So that is known as your guarantee contract. Negotiated contract. The pre-selected contracts are invited upon on the basis of capability of the past experience in the specific area, availability of the personnel to accomplish the work in the specified time, bid price, proposal method for compensation including amount of fee. Unit price contract based on the estimated quantities of the items involved in the work. The cost per unit item is given by the contractor and the estimated quantities of the items are given by the owner. The total cost of the work can only be calculated after the completion of the work because measurement is made on the basis of the work actually done. So this is what first the work is done. If the huge project is there, then the work is done partly and partly the work is measured and the bill is submitted and the owner releases the bill. Design build releases on a single point of responsibility contract and is used to minimize risk for the project owner and to reduce the delivery schedule by overlapping the design phase and construction phase of the project. There are two different parts, one is design and the construction and third is the execution. So whatever is built, the contractor has to bear all the responsibility. So that is known as your design build. Turnkey contracts, a type of project that is constructed so that it could be sold to any buyer as a completed project. That means you just construct one project and you sell it to any of your construction to any buyer. So that is known as your turnkey projects contracts. Construction concrete documentation includes the agreement, general conditions, supplementary conditions, drawings, specifications, agenda issued before submittal, notice to proceed. So this is all for today. We have completed unit number 1. In the next class, we are going to start with unit number 2. So for the assignment, I will pin down in your WhatsApp group. For today, it's done. Thank you, dear students. Be safe, stay healthy.